Hello, everyone. Short video this week about two new different types of qualitative research, phenomenological research and narrative research. So just briefly to summarize, phenomenological research is a type of research that views the person and their world as linked together. And so the researcher is not just focusing on one or the other, but on the essence of the meaning of the interaction between those. And within the chapter, there's a discussion of that essence and how the researcher determines that through the information and through the artifacts that are used to gather the data in phenomenological research. Also, this type of research focuses on the participants' perceptions of their experiences and circumstances. So much like in counseling, where the client's perception is their reality, that's the substance of this research as well. We don't argue with the client's perception, we help them to understand it. And that's what this type of research is designed to do. Created by a German mathematician, um, Herschel, um, offered one of the very first definitions, which is that it is starting from a perspective free hypothesis or preconceptions. So we're not starting from this is what I think. We're starting from a place of just data gathering and gathering the information about a specific phenomenon. And then the answers that we find are not going to describe. So this isn't descriptive, as in quantitative research and looking at descriptive statistics, but really explain that experience. And again, the interaction there between the two. There are some definitions to be aware of. One is essence. Essence is finding that commonality of the lived experience through the research. And then also bracketing, which is where the researcher tries as best they can to put aside their own biases to find meaning. So again, this goes back to us as counselors working with our peers, or when we are in consultation, to try to help determine the best way to help a client understand their experience. In the same way, this is what we would do with phenomenological research. The data analysis can be very unique depending on the data that's collected, and what the researcher specifically is focused on. And then when we're considering the trustworthiness of this type of research, there's some terms to know: truth value, which is how does the researcher exemplify the value of the truth that they believe they have found? How does the researcher explain that as being the truth from the specific research that they have been determined? And then also, rather than looking at reliability and validity, we're looking at applicability, consistency, and neutrality. So those are the hallmarks of phenomenological research. The other type of research is narrative analysis, which is another qualitative analysis, which helps us to interpret individual human experiences by looking at the stories people tell. You may be more familiar, as some of these terms may be more familiar to you from your study of narrative therapy. So this type of research is, again, recognizing the stories that people tell within the context of their experience, very experiential to the participants within the study. This can be very, very strong data in that it uncovers the context of the human experiences, not just the numbers behind the human experiences, and details that can possibly be missed. Obviously, both of these types of research are open to subjectivity because the way that the material is gathered, and then even the way that the data is processed, and the creation of the ideas from the data can be subjective. And so that is definitely something that can be a limitation for this research. And also that this research is very time consuming because it does involve detailed information gathering from the participants. one more thing just to put out there, because now that we are talking about different types of research, sometimes it can get a little confusing. So when we're looking at narrative analysis, one might think, well, how is that different from case study? Well, case study is typically going to be quantitative in nature, or at least some of the data that will be used will be quantitative in nature. And the data can be collected in different ways, but it is not so much focused on the experience of the subjects, which is narrative research. It's focused on the observable outcomes of the specific interventions. So that's how those are different from each other. And then just to recognize that qualitative research can be difficult to name. And sometimes it's really about how the researcher names the research that they're doing, more so than narrative research fits in this box and phenomenological research fits in this box and grounded theory fits in this box. It's really how the researcher defines and how they are looking at the context of the situation or of the phenomenon that's being studied. So that's some information for these two chapters. I did want to give you briefly reminders about your program evaluation, which is going to be due on April 25th. Please be sure that you look at the rubric that is in the syllabus, and the description that's in the syllabus. And I also posted some information a couple of weeks ago on what the expectation is and even some examples of the program evaluation. So please be sure and look at all those things before you write your program evaluation and turn that in. It is a 30-point assignment, and it is 15% of your grade. So I want to make sure that you know what you need to do. As before, if you have any questions, please reach out to me and we can definitely discuss any questions you have. That is also, remember, it will be in APA format. So be sure that you do that for that paper. Also, this week we have 2 more article summaries that are in the spider format. Be sure that you are working with the spider format as we've moved to that for our qualitative research. Now, I know we did 2 different types of qualitative designs this week, but the odds of you finding those 2 different designs within the research that you're doing, probably not so good. So please look for those. Look for more qualitative, for different types of qualitative research as you are finding more articles. But I'm not expecting you to find a phenomenological study and a narrative study this week, because there's just not as much of that type of research available. But you do need to be sure that the 2 articles you do this week are qualitative, because remember, again, we're trying to feed into our lit review, which is coming up pretty quickly here. So hopefully you've already started and have been working on that. I hope the information last week was helpful. And as I mentioned, I am available for office hours on Thursday. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And I hope everyone has a good week.